What I'm about to tell you is something that still makes my skin crawl. Something that has no explanation, none that I've ever been able to stomach. Anyway, it remains the strangest, most terrifying experience of my life, and I haven't met a single person who can truly explain it away. I work nights at a dingy little dive bar about 30 minutes from my house. The job isn't glamorous. It's not even really by choice. Out here, in the quiet, rural stretches where opportunities are slim, you take what you can get. The bar itself is nothing special. Sticky floors, old neon signs, the smell of cheap liquor clinging to the walls. But it's steady work. Most nights blur into one another, unremarkable and uneventful. That night seemed no different. My shift ended without incident. The regular drunks had stumbled out, and after locking everything down, I slid into my car and began the long drive home. The road back is little more than a twisting labyrinth of backroads, narrow, curving strips of asphalt that snake through farmland and dense patches of forest. Few lights, fewer cars, and nothing but long, silent stretches. Honestly, I'd always liked that part of the night. It gave me a chance to detox from the chaos of the bar, time to let my mind wander over the oddball characters and half-coherent conversations I'd collected during the evening. But not that night. That night, the quiet had teeth. I hadn't gone far before I noticed the fog. It wasn't the kind of light haze you sometimes get out there. This was different. Thick. Suffocating. A curtain of white that pressed on the car until visibility shrank to only a few feet ahead. I eased off the gas, creeping forward. Even the high beam betrayed me, glowing uselessly against the fog and reflecting back into my eyes as though I were driving into a solid wall of mist. The frustration hit me first, the irritation of knowing this drive was going to take even longer. But soon, irritation gave way to unease. It was about halfway home when I saw it. Through the fog, just off to the right side of the road, blinked a faint yellow light. At first glance, I figured it was just a reflector or one of those roadside markers. But then something felt wrong. No matter how far I drove, it never shifted. It didn't grow closer. It didn't fade behind me. It stayed exactly where it was, blinking in a steady rhythm, as though it was moving alongside me, keeping pace from somewhere within the haze. I couldn't judge its distance. The fog warped everything, playing tricks on my eyes, making it impossible to tell how far away the glow actually was. Minute after minute, it stayed with me. That's when the feeling began to sink in, low, twisting unease in my stomach. Instinct more than reason. Something about it wasn't right. I decided to test it. I let off the gas, slowing until my car was crawling forward. The light, however, remained unchanged, still pulsing, still perfectly aligned with my pace. That's when the fear began to bite. I pressed hard on the brake until the car came to a complete stop. My eyes locked on that faint yellow blink, and still it lingered, perfectly in place, perfectly timed. My heart was hammering, my mind screaming for answers. Then it changed. The rhythm stayed the same, but the glow began to swell, burning brighter and stronger with each pulse, like a flame fanned by some unseen wind. It wasn't blinking faster. No, it was alive now, burning hotter, hungrier. That was enough for me. I wasn't waiting around to see what it became. I reached for the gear shift, ready to throw the car into reverse and get the hell out of there. That's when I realized something that nearly stopped my heart. The engine wasn't running. I hadn't turned the key. I know I hadn't, but the car was dead, completely silent. My hands, the same steady hands that poured drinks night after night without a tremor, were shaking violently as I fumbled for the ignition. Nothing. The engine wouldn't turn over. Not even a click. Just dead silence. And still, that light burned brighter, as though feeding on my panic. My phone. Maybe I could call for help, or at least film it. I snatched it up, but the screen remained black. Dead. My stomach dropped. I had checked the battery before leaving the bar, over 20%. But now, it was as useless as the engine. The light swelled suddenly, violently, until it flared into a blinding brilliance, white-hot, searing, like a star exploding only feet away. My vision drowned in it. My eyes slammed shut, arms thrown across my face as my entire world became fire and light. 10 seconds, maybe more, passed before I dared to open my eyes. And when I did, it was gone. The fog remained, heavy and unmoving, but the light, that awful, pulsing, growing light, had vanished as though it had never been there. My chest was still heaving, my pulse a jackhammer in my ears. Almost without thought, I twisted the ignition one more time. The engine roared to life. I didn't hesitate. I pressed down on the gas and tore through those winding back roads, never once letting my eyes stray from the asphalt ahead. Not even for a second. The rest of the drive was uneventful, almost unnervingly so. I made it home, but sleep didn't come easy. I've told this story to everyone I trust, family, friends, even some of the regulars at the bar. I've heard every theory, every explanation people can scrape together, but none of them sit right. None of them explain what I saw. And every time I think about it, I can still see that light, still blinking, still waiting. No, too. This happened a couple of years ago. I'm a long-haul truck driver, been at it for years now, and I've grown used to the endless stretches of nothingness that come with the job. Silence, emptiness, blacktop disappearing into the horizon. It doesn't bother me anymore. Or at least, it didn't. That particular night, I was on my second-to-last delivery of a cross-state loop. I just wanted to knock it out and get home. The route cut me across one of those desert highways that feel abandoned at night. No towns for miles, no gas stations, no neon signs, not even a porch light in the distance. Just a two-lane sky across the desert beneath a sky so packed with stars it almost felt unreal. Those drives can play tricks on you. It starts to feel like you're the last living soul on Earth. I was maybe an hour away from my drop-off when I noticed it. In my side mirror, a dark SUV appeared. I don't know how long it had been there before I noticed, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. It wasn't tailgating, wasn't aggressive. It just lingered, always the same distance. Whenever I sped up or slowed down, it adjusted perfectly. For nearly 40 miles, it clung there in my mirrors, never passing, never pulling away, just watching. At first, I told myself it was nothing, maybe just a nervous driver who didn't want to overtake a semi at night. But that excuse burned out fast. I passed through multiple wide-open zones where they could have overtaken me easily, yet the SUV stayed put, silent, waiting. I tried to ignore it, but that kind of thing gets into your head. Every few minutes I found myself sneaking glances at the mirror, hoping to see it gone. But it was always there, always keeping pace. And little by little, I felt unease tightening around me like a noose. By around 2 a.m., I'd had enough. I spotted a small roadside rest area and decided to pull in. It wasn't much, just a dirt lot with a handful of faded spaces and a crumbling shed with 2 vending machines under a single flickering bulb. No other vehicles, no other people, just me. I figured I'd stretch my legs, grab a soda, and, most importantly, let the SUV pass me once and for all. But as I sat there, engine idling, I watched the dark shape pull in too. It rolled to a stop at the far corner of the lot, headlights off, windows black. Any lingering curiosity I had twisted into raw anger. Enough was enough. I stepped down from the cab, slamming the door, and stumped toward the SUV. Whoever was inside was about to explain themselves. But before I could get within shouting distance, the engine roared to life. Tires screamed, gravel exploded, and the SUV tore out of the lot like a spooked animal. It flew past me, the windows too dark to reveal a face, before vanishing down the highway in seconds. Just red taillights swallowed by the desert. I stood there in the silence, chest heaving, unsettled in a way I didn't want to admit. They had been following me. There was no denying that now. And the fact that they bolted the second I approached, that meant only one thing. Their intentions weren't good. I muttered a curse, grabbed a useless soda from the empty vending machine, and shuffled back toward the rig. The anger had drained out of me, leaving only exhaustion. My whole body felt heavy. The last thing I wanted was to get back behind the wheel. So I made a choice. Just a quick nap, an hour or two to reset before finishing the run at sunrise. I walked the rig, checked the locks on the cargo doors, gave everything a once-over. Satisfied, I climbed back into the cab, cracked the window to let the cool night air in, and leaned back. The lot was dead silent, desert silent. For the first time all night, I actually felt safe enough to close my eyes. But I should have known better. I've always been a light sleeper. Years on the road condition you that way. Out here, if someone messes with your rig while you're sleeping, you might lose your livelihood, or worse, your life. So when I woke up to the faint crunch of footsteps on gravel maybe an hour later, my eyes snapped open instantly. I didn't move, didn't breathe loud, just slowly slid a finger across the blind covering the side window. Through the crack, I saw them. Two figures crouched low near my rear wheels, studying the latches on my trailer doors. One of them used a small flashlight, flicking the beam in short signals. The other reached into a bag and pulled out a pair of bolt cutters. My stomach turned to ice. I had no weapon, nothing but my hands and a horn. But that was all I needed. Without thinking, I slammed my palm down on the air horn, unleashing a deafening blast that shattered the stillness of the desert. The reaction was immediate. Both men jolted like they'd been struck by lightning. They dropped what they were doing and bolted into the brush. Not 10 seconds later, headlights flared to life. That SUV, the same one from before, came roaring back into the lot, lights still off, kicking up dust before whipping around and disappearing into the night again. It was over in seconds, too fast for me to do anything but sit there, heart hammering against my ribs. When the silence returned, I called the police. Honestly, I just wanted the incident on record, but they insisted I stay put until a unit could check it out. Eventually, 2 officers arrived and combed over the truck. Sure enough, they found fresh pry marks along the bottom latch of the trailer. Those men had been seconds away from getting it open. The cops told me I'd been lucky. They'd seen this before, cargo thieves. Apparently, that stretch of highway was a hunting ground for them. They follow you, wait for you to stop, and then strike when you're most vulnerable. To this day, it remains the most unsettling thing I've ever experienced. Because now I know the truth. Sometimes the emptiness of the desert isn't empty at all. Sometimes something is watching. There's nothing quite like a night drive in the summer. The warm wind slipping through open windows, the hum of tires on smooth blacktop, and the illusion that the world belongs only to you. Around here, the highways stretch out like ribbons across empty country, and at night, they are practically deserted. No cops, no traffic, just freedom. That night, I was reveling in it. My dad's BMW M3 roared like a caged animal finally set loose, and I gave it room to breathe. I wasn't reckless, not suicidal, but I let the car show me what it could do. The stereo was off. The passenger seat sat empty. My ears drank in nothing but the whip of air rushing past and the intoxicating growl of German engineering at full stride. Maybe it was the adrenaline, or maybe something deeper, but I felt an irresistible urge to leave the highway. I can't explain it. It was like something whispering at the back of my mind. Turn here, go deeper. Against reason. I listened. I peeled off at the next exit and threaded my way into a grid of backroads, narrow, twisting streets flanked by fields and scattered patches of woods. The car hugged each curve like it was alive, and I felt weightless with each turn. It was perfect, until it wasn't. The beam of my headlight snagged on something dead ahead, and instinct slammed my foot onto the brake. Tires shrieked. My chest lurched forward. The car skidded to a halt inches from the obstruction. A shopping cart. Just a rusted, ordinary shopping cart parked square in the center of the road. The gleam of metal had flashed so suddenly in my headlights it looked like it had appeared out of nowhere. I sat there, hands gripping the wheel, staring at it. Midnight, on an empty farm road, and here was a shopping cart, an absurd, out-of-place sentinel blocking my path. Against every scrap of common sense, curiosity pulled me out of the car. Hazard lights clicked, casting the night in red pulses, and the familiar tick-tick of the cooling engine filled the silence as I stepped into the warm, buggy air. Up close, the cart was just as unremarkable as it had looked from behind the wheel. Empty. No groceries. No trash. Nothing to explain how or why it sat in the middle of nowhere. My skin prickled as I leaned over it, waiting for some detail, some logic, to reveal itself. Nothing came. I turned back toward my car. That's when movement snagged a corner of my vision. 2 figures burst from the fields beside the road. Dark. Fast. Sprinting directly for me. For a heartbeat, my brain refused to process what it was seeing. Then instinct screamed, "Move or die." I bolted. The car door slammed shut just as the engine roared to life. But the figures were already there. One stopped short at my window. The other didn't stop at all. He plowed into the passenger door with such force the car shuddered beneath the impact. He didn't flinch, didn't recoil. It was as if the vehicle wasn't even there.